Hello everyone, thank you so much for stopping by. This is Huglo Fashion and you're so much welcome to the channel. Today I'll be showing you how to make this shawl collar Bubu dress with front button. You can see how lovely it's looking on my mannequin. This is the back. So please stay tuned to the end and enjoy the tutorial. Like and share the video as well. First of all, I drafted the back bodice pattern because there will be no opening at the back. There's no zipper in this, it's just front opening, and the front opening is as a result of the collar. And this is the measurement I'll be working with: the nipple point, the underbust, the half length. Actually, the part I needed in this is just the straight shoulder to measurements. I don't need the total circumference of the bodies. The only part I needed the total circumference is the hip part. So first of all, I measure from shoulder to nipple point, shoulder to underbust, shoulder to half length, shoulder to hip length, and the length of the gown. Then I first measure the circumference of the bust. Like I said, is not needed. So for the clarity to explain better, that was why I measured that. So the circumference of the bust is just 45 divided by 4. Actually, I divided every part of the bodies by 4 except for the sleeve. Then that's the under bust, the half length, the circumference of the half length. So now to the main purpose, to the main work. Now the circumference of the hip is 48 divided by 4, that's 12. So I added 1 inch for ease and 1 inch for normal allowance. Then, like I said, that's the measurement I'll be using all through. So I used that from hip. I measured the same at the under bust. I measured it at the nipple point and also the length of the gown. So which means I'm having straight measurements. That is from the bust down to the length of the gown. I use the hip measurements all through. So for the shoulder now, before you cut it out, for the shoulder, you measure from the middle of your neckline to the part where the sleeve will end. So from the shoulder to where the sleeve will end, from the middle of the back to where the sleeve will end, that's like 22 inches or thereabouts. Yours may be different. Then I first measure that. That's before cutting this out. You know, I've already cut it out, so I'm just trying to re-explain. But if you are cutting yours, ensure that this is the first part that you measure from the middle of your shoulder to from the middle of your back to the length of your sleeve, because that's very, very important. You will know how to fold your fabric. Then from that part, I went ahead to the under bust. So from the under bust, I just cuff it to the particular measurement I want for the sleeve. The measurement of the sleeve is not the one I used. I added some inches to it because it's not a firm sleeve, it's big. The sleeve is wide, so I added like 3 inches to the circumference of the sleeve. That is, the sleeve is 16 inches. Then 16 divided by 2, that's 8. So I added like 3 inches just to ensure that the sleeve is very wide. You know, out of the 3 inches I added, I'll also be stitching 1 inch in, which means I only added like 2 inches extra for the wideness. So this is the back bodies. Then I went ahead to cut the front bodies using the same pattern of the back bodies. I just placed it on the remaining fabric, then traced it out to cut the front bodies. So for this front bodies, there's a little mistake there. Let me explain to you. I actually added only ½ inch to the front, which is supposed not to be so. So if you are cutting yours, because they are going to lap on each other, please don't add half. Add like 2.5 inches. You will get to know the reason why when as time goes on while sewing. So for the neckline, I measure 4 inches. For the neckline of the back, I measured 4 inches by 1. The width is 4 inches while the length is 1 inch. That's for the back. Now for the front, I need to extend it because it's going to lap on each other and it must come down very well. So for the front, I used like 7 inches. So then the 7 inches is by 4. You know, both the front and the back bodies neckline, I mean the width must align. Then I cut out everything. I just curve like V shape. That's how the front is. I just make a V shape there. Then I went ahead to cut it out. Now for the shoulder. For the shoulder of the sleeve, sorry, for the shoulder, I bent it with 2 inches. Although I have videos on this tutorial, that's why I decided not to bother myself re-explaining this part. But if what I'm explaining is not really clear to you, you can check out the video. I'll drop it in the description box. Now for the pocket, I just measure from the shoulder to the half length, then I notch it. I added 2 inches to the half length, then I notch it. And also after the first notch, the second notch, I added 7 inches. That's where the hand will enter through. Now for the collar, at first I cut my doll face and added paper stay to it. So I'll be stitching it from the wrong side to the right side like this. And the length is just the length of the dress. Whatever you have, you can cut it, you can make it reach up. If you like, you can leave it the way I did mine. It has no effect. Then the width is 5 inches. The reason for this 5 inches is the actual the actual measurement I need is 4 inches. So I'll be stitching half to turn it from the wrong to the right, then half just for the folding at the side here, just to ensure that the edges are neat. So this is the part I will use the remaining half for. So ½ inch to stitch it from the wrong side to the right side, then half to hem the edge. Now the collar. For the collar, the short collar part, actually you would need to measure the circumference of the neckline of the back, which I have 5.5 inches. You can see the 5.5 inches. So I will just extend the front bodies, the neckline of the front, with the 5 inches. Since it's a short collar, like I mentioned earlier, I will extend it with 5 inches. So that was what I did here. Just trace out the neckline of the front and add it to the just trace out the neckline of the front and add the neckline of the back to it. You can see that's why it's 5 inches, 5.5 inches longer than the front bodies. So while stitching, I'll stitch the ½ inch extra. That's the 5.5, the actual 5.5 I measured. I will stitch the ½ inch. You know, I'm still going to stitch both the shoulder of the front and the back bodies together, so that will reduce the neckline 5.5 inches to 5 inches. So I hope you understand what I'm trying to explain here, but don't worry, when I start sewing you understand it better. And the width I used for the collar is 9.5 inches. That's why it's this wide, you can see. So I cut it into 4 pieces because they'll be joining at the middle, and of course I'll be using them to turn each other. That's why I arranged them this way. So I used 9 inches, then just bent my hand, just give it a curve shape back to the neckline, back to the front part of the neckline. So now I started sewing it. Just follow the way I'm doing it and you will understand it better. Although I did not bother to cut the printed part of it because I know I will still be stitching it in. So the part that I said you will stitch ½ inch, if you like you can iron the ½ inch out, or if you like you can first stitch on it. If you are the type that doesn't like standing up from your machine like me, you can just first stitch the ½ inch with a tiny stitch very close to the edge. Just stitch the ½ inch first, then after that, then you place it back on the bodies. You place it back there and top stitch. You top stitch it back on the fabric, on the Ankara fabric. It will be more easy instead of you trying to fold with your hand. This will just go smoothly. Then after doing that, you can see that I only added that the doff is to one side of the front bodies. That's because it's not on the other side of the front bodies. And now I'm joining the collar. So that's one part, and this is the part that we use to turn it. This will serve as the facing. After doing the joining, I went ahead to turn the collar together. So first of all, I will turn the edges. The next thing is to join the front bodies and the back bodies together. Sorry. So I joined the front bodies and the back bodies shoulder. If you remember, I said I reduced the shoulder part, I mean the sleeve part to the neckline. I removed like 2 inches from there. So now just to give it a bent shape at the shoulder, you know the shoulder is not straight, just to give it a bent shape there. Then I also stitch the other side. At first I stitch one side of the shoulder, then the other side. Now that's what I'm doing. After stitching these two together, the next thing is to fix the collar. So I've also I've locked the mouth of the collar, the part that I turned together. So like I said earlier, I used 9.5 inches and I've stitched ½ inch in. So I have 9 inches left. Remember the 9 inches, I said I cuffed it, so which means I will not be having 9 inches all through. 9 inches there, at the edge here I have 4.5, and at the tip I have like 1 inch. That's because it has cuff shape. Sorry, I did not show you the part where I cut the collar, but I hope you can understand with this my explanation. Then to stitch this, you get the middle of the neckline of the back, then you pin it down with your collar, with the middle of the collar, and stitch it all around. After stitching this is why I said you don't need ½ inch at the front. You need like 2 inches because they are definitely going to lap on each other, and this will reduce the measurement if you refuse to add the 2 inches. Because after sewing, I realized that it doesn't really fall at the middle again. It was at the side. But please, if you are doing yours, don't repeat my mistake. Now I ensure they lapped on each other well, and then top stitch. And top stitch it on the other part of the front bodies. So after stitching, I left like 10 inches before it gets to the hemline. The reason is to give it easy access to walk, to stretch your leg, and the 10 inches I hemmed it inside. You can see I've already hemmed it in using my hemming gum. Then for the sleeve, you can see the results now. This is why I said you should add half in 2 inches. So the next thing is just to weave the neckline, just to give it a good finishing. And for the sleeve, I only used 3 inches. So if you are doing yours, you can see that the one in the thumbnail is the additional material is bigger than the one I used. So you can use like 6 inches instead of this 3 that I used, or you use 5, either way around, depends on your choice. So then I'll stitch from the wrong side again to the right side. Then I'll fold ½ inch in, just the way I did for the front bodies. I'll fold ½ inch in. So thank you very much for watching this video to the end. I actually used this button because I couldn't get the black button and big size of this button. So this is